Hey everyone, JJ here. Just in the midst of my holiday break. So here I am wishing you and your family happy holidays, whatever it is you're celebrating. We're just getting wrapped up with Christmas here. So I've been down in the studio going through gear, cleaning things up, making adjustments and stuff. So thought it might be a good time to do a video for some people who've been asking questions about my setup. And I've done some other videos where I did deep dives into why I'm kind of choosing some of the gear that I have, but I figured I'd do maybe a bit quicker of a run through just for anyone who's interested about what I'm using at the moment for the YouTube stuff. So I don't think it's any secret. I talked previously in one of my videos. I'm a big Tama fan. I'm a fan of everything I'm using. So Tama drums, Paiste cymbals, Aquarian heads. Those are kind of staples of my setup nowadays. So what I'm using currently is probably a mid 80s or to maybe late 80s Tama Grand Star kit. These are birch drums. They're very, very thick shells. These were always my dream drums growing up. Well, most of my favorite drummers use these drums, and so once I was able to get a set of my own, it was they kind of became the most frequent flyer in the studio, if you want to call it that. So it's not too often I switch out for something else. I have the large set at home here. For gigs, I tend to normally just use a four-piece basic setup. I don't like carrying a lot of stuff with me to gigs. It's cumbersome, and I get by okay with a simpler setup for that. But at home, it's the lab down here, so I experiment a lot with different setups and things, and it's a good bit of fun. So through the holidays, I kind of made if you've watched any of my videos, you may be familiar with my setup. But I've made a few changes and added a few things, really, just because I have them sitting around, so I figured I'd try to incorporate it in. So I'll start with the shells. It's a bit of a jelly bean kit here at the moment. There's chrome and white and gray and black, and I even have a pink Grand Star drum. It's just in a size I don't use, but anyways, I don't care. It's the sound I'm concerned about, not really so much a matching color combo. So this one here is a new addition to the setup, and I haven't been a huge fan of smaller drums most of my life, but I've been on a big kick of drummers who use large multi-tom setups like your Nico McBrain and Simon Phillips, and the intervals you can get with having a lot of toms and the melodic phrasings are really appealing to me right now. So I thought it might be something I try. So I've incorporated, this is a 10x9 tom, trying to find a sweet spot for it. It's actually reversed right now. This is the Rezo head, not the batter head. So just trying to figure out the placement for it. Find a good, comfortable spot. I don't want to mess with anything too much, so it's not messing with the bass and setup and trying to find a spot for that is the ticket right now. So yeah, this is a 10x9 rack tom. We have the standard 12x11 I've been using. This is a 13x12. These are all power size drums, so they usually 1 inch shallower than what the diameter is. So yeah, 10x9, 12x11, 13x12. This right here is kind of a rare bird. What this is a factory 15 inch by 14 inch floor tom in the Grand Star shell, which you don't see a lot of these around. 15 inch floor toms weren't really super popular at this era. A lot of people were running 15 inch rack toms instead, which I also have, but I like having the left side floor tom, for other accents and just to have something over here. So that's been a really cool addition the last little while. Let me get out of the way here. 16x16 floor tom. This is an 18x16 floor tom. And then over there is the 20x14 gong drum. And it's period correct as well. So it's an exact match in the shell composition as to the rest of the Grand Star drums, which is pretty cool. It's not too often you'll see those ones come up. So I was lucky to find that one as well. Bass drums are 22 by 16. I'd love to get a 24 or perhaps two 24s at some point, but it hasn't come up yet, so I'm on the lookout, hopefully one day. This snare I've been using for the past little while. I have a very good snare collection, I think. I have a lot of different metals, a lot of different woods, a lot of choice. And so this one has been on the kit for a while. I picked this one up a few years ago. This is a an 80s era Tama Mastercraft steel snare. So it's got the extended snare wires, the roller strainer, all the high-end features that Tama was running on their snares back in the 80s. And this snare sounds, it's been a lot of fun to play. I'm usually not a fan of the deeper snares because I prefer the snare response of a shallower drum. But because of the extended snare wires, this one has been working pretty well. And yeah, it's just fun to change it up every now and then. So as far as the hardware goes, it's obviously, I'm a fan of the drums and the hardware from Tama. So this is all, I would say probably 90% of this stuff is all period correct. So, you're into your 80s. And so legless hi-hat stand, amazing snare stand. We're lucky these days that we can find, with 3D printing and resources online, you can find a lot of the replacement parts for these, worn out bushings and all this kind of stuff. So refurbing one of these snare stands and bringing it back to life is great because they're an excellent snare stand. Tons of adjustability. Yeah, it's just been great. Not anything too special about the hi-hat. It's just a legless hi-hat, typical of the era. It plays great. I've had no reason to change it out. The cymbal stands that I've been using for years now are the HC 104 TBs, and these are, in my opinion, probably the best cymbal stands ever made. They're definitely one of the most heavy duty, a ton of adjustability. These stands don't leave my house, so the weight is not really a concern. But I would say the stands probably weigh somewhere between like maybe 8 to 10 pounds. They're quite heavy. These particular ones are the stilt models, so they they have the ability to tilt towards you and change the center of gravity, which really helps. They just don't sway, they don't tip. You can put any size cymbal on them pretty much, and they're fairly rock solid. So I have quite a few of the newer Tama Road Pro cymbal stands, and those are absolutely fine as well. Great for gigging and everyday usage. But as far as like your Cadillac of cymbal stands, let's call it, it's very, very hard to beat these. And I was lucky to grab a lot of these stands during a time when nobody wanted them. Everyone's moving towards lighter hardware, and so yeah, like everybody just had them collecting dust, and I'll put them to good use. How about that? So yeah, and then I run, I talked about it in another video, but I'm running the more modern Iron Cobra pedals, the single pedals, because this is a double bass drum set. Other than that, it's pretty much standard fare, a little bit newer hi-hat attachment for the double bass, cowbell holder over there. I have a remote hi-hat set up currently, which you can see over there just by the cowbell. It's an 80s or early 90s remote hi-hat. I'm not currently using the foot pedal. I just have it set up as an X-hat right now, just to get an extra cymbal sound over there. So heads on the drums I've talked about previously. I won't go too far into it, but so I like the Aquarian heads. I'm a big fan of the 2-ply coated heads that they make called the Response 2. So that's on all of the toms, including the gong drum. I've put one on there as well. I kind of tend to use it as a low floor tom instead of like a bass drum sound or something like that. So I wanted to match sonically better with the toms. This is the Rezo head. This is flipped around right now, so I have black Rezo heads on all the drums, but these are your typical single ply ambassador kind of weight. So very, very happy with the drums. I like to use these overlays. If you're familiar at all with like a Power Stroke 3 bass drum head, I run the Aquarian equivalent of that. Single ply head, and it has an overtone or like a ring on the outside of the drum, and not it's like not an overlay, it's an underlay, I guess, because it's on the other side of the head, but just helps kill some of the overtones. And it's the same principle with these. The difference is you can take these on and off, to taste, more or less. So I'd run those in all the drums, and it helps with the overtones a little bit. So yeah, that's pretty much as far as cymbals or drums go. So cymbals next. I've made a few, not changes, but just kind of swap things around. So I'm a huge Paiste fan, as per my other video, and that's not changed, but I've added and changed a couple of cymbals around in the setup. So I love the Paiste signature line. Once I went to those, it was hard to go to anything else. I do like a little variety though, so I've got different ones in there. But so this is the Paiste signature 17-inch power crash. This is the only odd size crash that I have. I've experimented with sizes over the years, and 18 is definitely the best for me. Just fitment, sonics, all that kind of stuff. I always look at an 18 first and move around from there depending on what I want. And I already have an 18-inch power crash right over here. Wanted another power crash, but I went 1 inch down. 16s don't really do a lot for me. 17's a good compromise. I've added this cymbal stand in the last little while to get another crash over to my left side. So the 17 works well over here. I previously had it here for a lot of videos right in the center of my toms, but it's moved. This is an 18-inch Paiste 2002, just a normal crash. It's a wonderful cymbal. It's rock and roll royalty, basically. That thing is lots of cut, sounds great. These hi-hats here, these are probably have become my favorite. I'm more of a hi-hat guy than I am a ride cymbal guy, and these have replaced what were my former favorite hi-hats. A very old pair of Zildjians that I've had for 30 years or more. And these have everything I want in them. They have tons of articulation, lots of playability, so much definition. The tone is great, open, closed. They sound great with the foot chick. I've yet to find a genre that these don't really work well for. And these are the Paiste signature 14-inch heavy hi-hat. If you look through Paiste's roster, you'll see a lot of different players have used this model. And for being labeled heavy, they don't feel as heavy as what you would think. Paiste's a little different when it comes to that than some other cymbals. Their cymbals always feel like they run a bit lighter than what a comparable model from a different company would be. So, but that's okay. It works really well for me. So yeah, amazing hi-hats. This crash here is probably my favorite cymbal through the whole Paiste line, and this is a Paiste signature 18-inch full crash. And if you look through the roster, pretty much everybody at some point or another has used that cymbal that's been a Paiste artist. It works across every genre. It's just a wonderful, wonderful crash cymbal. For years, I had it actually in this spot where the 2002 was. I had them swapped actually, and what I wanted was to put the full crash in the middle so I can access it with my right hand and my left hand. Just to open it up a bit and just essentially play it more because I like it so much. I'll tend to play it more if it's in that spot. So this one is the kind of the workhorse crash. Like this is, I wanted something that has a lot of power for a crash riding sort of thing. And this one really, really makes a statement. This is the Paiste signature 18-inch power crash. And this one is great for, it has so much, it just fills in a lot of gaps. And it's very musical sounding, and it's just an amazing, powerful cymbal. And, it's loud isn't the right word. What it is, it's got this like just crystal clear kind of frequency response to it that just sits and just sings over top of like the rest of the drum set. And I love that. This is the most musical and the most the full crash is the most musical and the most use it across any genre sort of thing. But if you really, really want like a lot of, power is a perfect name for it. It really helps to convey that message. So getting to the other side of the kit here, I'll Hopefully you can kind of see past my body. There we go. So Power Crash, what's become my favorite china, I was using a different china for years and years from Zildjian. That cymbal broke on me quite frequently. What I decided to try was the Novo china, and the thing that's different about this is the bell shape. It actually plays more like a crash cymbal on the stand with the swing of it and the feel of it. And I was going through probably a china every 8 months with the Zildjian that I liked. I've had this one for almost 5 years, 4 years now, and play hard, played a lot. It's the only china on the kit, and yet to break, knock on wood. Still going strong, still sounds amazing, and a lot of my drum heroes use that cymbal as well, and with good reason. It sounds amazing. It's a really, really great sound. I'm sure the bell adds something to the sound, but for me, it's the playability factor. This cymbal is you're just 18-inch Peisty Rude. I used to run a lot of Rudes. This ended up being kind of the only one that stays. They're not to say one-dimensional, but the thing that they do really well. But I don't need every cymbal to do that. So what I like at this cymbal to be is when I'm going, through the toms and doing a tom roll, I want this to be like a statement cymbal. And also, if I don't feel like on the Power Crash here, doing the crash ride, sometimes I'll use this as an alternate voice. And they have the same character where they are well above like the mix, but they have a different metal constitution. So they have a different sound. They're achieving the same thing, and it's cool. I can go back and forth between them sometimes, and just pick what I want the sound to be like, which is a nice option to have. But at the end of a bar line, when it's down to this and it gets down to this, I tend to want deep drums and higher pitched cymbals. So as I'm down here, like when I hit this drum and then go to this cymbal, it's such a stark contrast. It really opens up your ears to what's going on with the drums, in my opinion anyways. This is I've had these cymbals for a long time, and I've had them on the kit every now and then, but this is a new addition to the kit recently with the studio cleanup. Those are on my X-Hat for the time being. They are 15-inch Peisty 2002 Sound Edge hi-hats. So those are great. I don't tend to use them very much as my main hi-hats, but I like them over there as an auxiliary hat. I like to do alternating things between hi-hats, even like say I'll play this one with my right hand and play this one with my left foot and do alternating 8th notes or 16th notes and make cool patterns like that, almost like a tambourine effect or something along those lines. It's kind of hard to see. I'm in the way, but I'm going to try to get out of the way. Okay, there it is. In all its beautiful, brilliant glory. Literally the only brilliant, finished cymbal on the whole kit. But this one I made a trade for, and I must say I'm quite happy with the trade. I think I came out further ahead. This is a Peisty, I believe it's still the signature line, so the same metal as my others. But this is from the Reflector series, and this is Nico McBrain from Iron Maiden. This is his signature ride called the Power Slave. And so it's a 22-inch, a large cymbal. It's the largest ride cymbal I've ever had, actually. But it is beautiful. It's not what you think a guy who's known as a preeminent heavy metal drummer would have. The bell is obviously it's named a bell ride, so the bell is quite unique and quite loud and bright, very cutting. But the cymbal is a little thinner than I actually expected it to be. So it has like a wobble to it almost when you play it. It has somewhat of a crashability to it, which is kind of a cool thing. To do like a cymbal swell on it or something like that is a neat effect. But yeah, it sounds great. It's a very it's way more delicate than I would ever think a heavy metal cymbal would be. But so this has been fun to experiment with in the last month or so. But the go-to ride that I've had, and this was, it still is, I just don't have it on the kit right now, Peisty Signature 20-inch Power Ride. And a lot of my favorite drummers use this cymbal, and with good reason. It's wonderful. It's heavy. It's not as heavy as you think a power ride would be. It's maybe the same weight as probably a medium heavy ride that I have from Zildjian or something like that. I think it weighs less than a 20-inch like heavy ride that I have. But yeah, this cymbal is great too. Just wanted to switch it up for a little bit and put something else on the kit. So I did. But so yeah, those are the cymbals. Something I didn't mention from the Tama portion of it is I use a thing, it's called a sizzle clutch. I think I talked about it briefly in another video, but this is a very cool thing if you play a lot of double bass and you want your hi-hats to be washy with a drop clutch. Most of the time with a drop clutch, what will happen is the cymbals just sit on each other the whole weight and they kind of make this sound a bit tighter. But I like a lot of wash when I'm playing double bass. I think it fills out the bar line a bit more. So yeah, that's what this thing is for. Operates like a normal drop clutch, typically. But yeah, touch that and it drops down and it leaves it a bit washy. Even on the X hat, I keep things a little bit washy as well. So yeah, that's it for drums and cymbals. Microphones, I've mentioned previously, I work in audio professionally, and so I have access to a lot of good equipment that way. So when it came to drum microphones, I just kind of went with, there's a lot of studio standards, and it's always best, in my opinion, to kind of stick with those. It's familiar territory. If they are producing a sound that you're not really fond of, it's much easier to sell a notable microphone on a marketplace or whatever than it is some no name maybe somebody's not heard of. So, but yeah, so I originally I was kind of trying to keep things a little bit trimmed down, but I figured I have all these microphones, so I may as well utilize them and have them for the YouTube videos I'm doing. And I've been pretty happy with the results so far. So there's a lot of different brands. I have different ones for work, some specialized microphones and things like that. But for the drums, I just kind of keep it simple. So I have it kind of mixed up. The rack toms and the hi-hat cymbal and the ride cymbal all have the Shure Beta 98 small diaphragm condenser microphone. It's easy to place. It's not that expensive, and it sounds great. Even with it being mounted on the drum itself, there's quite a good bit of isolation, and I don't get like a sympathetic kind of low frequency vibrations or anything through the microphones. So they work really well, and the pattern is fairly tight. So they reject a lot of the cymbals and the hi-hat microphone is right here, very close to this tom, but it's very good at rejecting. So they've been great for that. So yeah, the two rack toms, the hi-hat and the ride cymbal all get the Beta 98 from Shure. So what that left me with was, the snare drum is also Shure. I'm using two SM57s. There's a standard SM57 underneath for the snare wires. And what I have up top is it's made by a company, Grinelli Audio. They do an SM57 that has a 90-degree bend in it. So basically it makes an L shape. And that just makes it easier to place. It's the only difference. Sonically, it's the same. Obviously, it's a bit more of a premium to get that microphone cost-wise. But it's sonically the exact same thing as a normal SM57. So I'm not doing anything remarkable there, just using what people have been using for 80 years at this point as a studio standard. So that covers the snare. On the toms, I had some extra microphones I was using for live purposes. I've always been a big fan of Electro Voice microphones, so I decided to give them a try. I wanted to get their vintage microphones, but they didn't pop up. So I decided to get the newer model of these clip-on microphones. And they're very cool because they're so adjustable. They have like so many articulation points with adjustability. So you can really like dial in the placement and what you want to achieve sonically if you like it closer to the drum head for, an effect or whatever. But so this is the Electro Voice, the ND, I want to say it's the 44. So this one was, your typical kind of snare drum, rack tom microphone. And so that's on the 15-inch floor tom. I also have that on the 16-inch floor tom. You can kind of see it right there. ND44, and then I had the larger diaphragm version. It's the same circuitry as the smaller diaphragm. Literally the only difference is the larger diaphragm. So this is the ND46, and I use that on the 18-inch floor tom. Inside the gong drum, I have a Sennheiser 421, which is one of my favorite microphones for kind of anything. It's very much like an SM57. So I had one of those. I was actually using it as a kick drum microphone. I really like it for that application. But decided to use it on the gong drum, and it works wonderfully for that. And then bass drums, they're inside the bass drums right now, but they are the Electro Voice RE20, which is a broadcast standard microphone. If you watch any podcasts or watch YouTube, and if you see a gray tubular microphone, it's likely the RE20. It's been a broadcast standard and a studio standard microphone. It was probably one of the most common bass drum migrophones all throughout the 80s. I really like the character of it. I really don't like a pre-hyped microphone. And in my experience using that RE20 on people's voices, it really embellishes like a low timbre male voice, and it adds a lot of pleasing things to the sound of that voice. And it actually, in my opinion, kind of does the same thing with the bass drum as well. It's got like the thumpy bass drum sound versus the click and the attack, and which I don't really like. I'm not going for that sound anyway. So the microphone works in conjunction with how I tune the drums and all that kind of stuff anyways. So yeah, that's it for the close mics. And then above my head, which are, they're there, trust me. They are my favorite overhead and kind of use it for everything microphone, besides like an SM57, is the AKG 414. And, it's a very famous microphone, used for a ton of things, vocals, drum overheads, piano, anything. It's a real jack of all trades microphone. And so I actually owned a pair of them. And they were great and everything like that, but I had an opportunity to sell them, and so I sold them. And in looking for an alternative, I found this company called Warm Audio that was doing a reproduction version of it, using, I believe, most of the same circuitry and most of the same components. What there is there's a very sought after version of the 414 that was produced probably in the 60s or the 70s, something like that. The modern ones have the capsule for the microphone is a plastic material. There's metal elements in there, but it's mostly comprised of plastic, and that was for just reliability and touring and stuff. Plastic's more durable, less sensitive to temperature and all this kind of stuff. There's a version that came out in the 70s that everyone talks about and everyone looks for, and it has quite a premium over the normal version, and it has a brass capsule, a fully brass capsule. And Warm Audio, when I started investigating their version, theirs is called the WA41, and has all the same features as far as polar pattern selection and a pad switch for your levels and stuff. But it also was utilizing a fully brass capsule. So it was trying to kind of get close to what those really sought after versions of the 414 were. So after I sold my regular 414s off, these came up, and they were about a third, brand new, of the price I got for my pair of 414s used. And when I A/B'd the two, it was very, I'm not hearing on paper, going through a microscope, you might hear some difference, but in a real everyday scenario, it's sitting above the drum set and it's capturing everything I want. The cymbals, everything sounds great through that. And most of the drum sound I utilize for my videos kind of comes from those two microphones. which is kind of a testament to, you know, like how great they are. A lot of times an overhead, if it's, you know, maybe it's some to do with positioning as well where I have them, but a lot of people just use overheads to capture just cymbals, and that's not my ethos. I like to use them for capturing the whole kit, and cymbals are part of that, but I also want the drums to project up into that as well. That's kind of my full picture of the drum set. The rest of these close mics are just for, you know, embellishment. And but yeah, so the Warm Audio, I encourage you. They kind of might be the only outlier as far as recognizable name brands. They're becoming more recognizable, but I took a chance on them not being as well known, and I must say I'm quite pleased with the result. So yeah, it's wonderful to have access to, you know, all this equipment, and to be able to switch things around and try things, and I'm pretty happy. But I just wanted to get this video out. As I said, there's been a few questions. People ask different things about the kit. Hopefully this one is you know, answering most of the questions that people have. I'm sure there'll probably be more and stuff like that. I'm always happy to do another video about that. But as of now, this has been the one about my current drum setup for recording YouTube videos. So cheers.